Glad to have you aboard with us here as we roll through a Thursday edition of AFR. Tiger basketball reeling a bit. They've lost 4 of 5, as we all know, and now they got their next 2 on the road. Always enjoy when we get a couple of minutes with Jerry Palm, CBS Sports bracketologist. As a matter of fact, just about 3 hours ago, his latest bracketology went up, and he's good enough to join us here on the show. Jerry, thanks as always, man. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Let's just state the obvious. LSU losers of 4 of their last 5. How much have they fallen over the last 2 weeks?
Oh, a couple of seeds at least. It's been a rough run of play for them, and especially, it's the losses to Vanderbilt and Alabama, that really hurt, especially Vanderbilt. I mean, that's their only conference win in 2 years. And if you're looking for the quality wins on this resume, good luck. I mean, they just aren't there. Florida at home, Arkansas at home, Rhode Island, that's probably their best win. So, it's not really a very good resume right now. I mean, they're not going to get left out of the tournament yet, but, if this run of play continues, we could be talking about them as a bubble team before too long.
That's kind of the concern around here. Presently, you have them as a 7 seed on your bracketology at cbssports.com. Let's talk a little bit about the resume as it exists, though. The Vanderbilt loss, which clearly is the biggest stain, how is that viewed in the committee room on Selection Sunday?
It's a bad loss. It's part of who you are. So, bad losses are, pretty much everybody's got them. Nobody's got one as bad as Kentucky. But it's still, that's a bad day. And, you want to try and do something to make up for it. And, LSU's got, a ton of Quadrant 2 wins. Only 2 in Quadrant 1, but 8 in Quadrant 2. And that's a lot of home wins in the league. It's wins over teams like Florida and Arkansas and Alabama and Mississippi State, and then outside the league with Liberty. Those are nice. But there's nothing on here that's really exciting. The thing that actually stands out the most is the loss to Vanderbilt.
The close losses to Auburn and then the rally against Kentucky, which came up short, those were their biggest opportunities to get signature wins. In not getting those 2, how much or does that? Obviously, the loss hurts, but no one's gonna crush you for losing by a point in overtime on the road at Auburn. But in how much of an opportunity did they miss in not getting either of those wins?
Well, in the SEC, especially the top 3 teams, Kentucky, Auburn, and LSU, don't have a lot of teams they can resume build against because the league is down once you get past those 3. And so you don't resume build by beating Mississippi State and South Carolina and Florida. You do it by beating Auburn and Kentucky. Auburn and Kentucky. So, when you're one of the 3, your opportunities are even more limited. So, and their schedule only gave them each of those teams once. So they only really had 2 chances in conference play for quality wins. They didn't seem to have any at all outside the league for quality wins. USC, maybe. Utah State, maybe. They didn't play a top-notch team outside the league either. And that's hurting them as well. I mean, it's not like they played a terrible schedule, but they played a schedule that didn't have much of the really bad teams on it, but also didn't have much of the really good ones on it. It's a middle-of-the-road schedule, and with middle-of-the-road results, frankly.
He's on Twitter at JP Palm CBS. Jerry Palm's got LSU in Houston, the South region, as the 7 seed, taking on the 10 seed Northern Iowa as it stands right now. How much could quantity over the last 5 help LSU? Let's say hypothetically, with 3 road games, 2 at home, although none of them, huge resume builders. Let's say they're able to go 4-1. How much does quantity help LSU over these final 5?
It's better than going 1-4.
Right.
But again, who are you beating that's going to get anybody's attention? At Florida, maybe. But it's not. If they're going to make a splash at some point, they're not going to make a splash against this schedule. So they're just not. And they've got road games, and road games are hard in league play in every league, and that's how it goes. But you're going to come across a South Carolina team that's looking to make a name for itself, a Florida team looking to play its way up the resume. Those are both road games, play its way up the bracket. And so they're going to have their hands full with those games most likely. and those are their next two. And all of a sudden, if you lose those, now what is it? 4 out of 5 turns into 6 out of 7, and,
Right.
and now you've got a problem. So, and nobody that you play helps you erase that sort of stuff. There's nothing on the schedule until you get to the conference tournament and possibly get a shot at Kentucky or Auburn. There's nothing you can really do but hurt yourself with these remaining games.
That's well said, well stated. Let me pose this hypothetical, and understanding that nothing's ironclad because you don't know what the rest of college basketball is doing. But let's say LSU wins the 2 home games against Georgia and Texas A&M and loses the 3 road games. They finish the SEC 11-7. Are they in? And if not, what do they need to do in the SEC tournament?
Well, yeah, that's they're a bottom half of the bracket team. They're probably on the better side of the bubble at that point. What do they have to do in the conference tournament? I don't know. I don't even know who they're playing in the conference tournament.
The reason I bring it up, Jerry, would be the Ben Simmons team a couple of years ago was 11-7 in the league, and there was a general feeling, it's not apples to apples, obviously, but that they were probably in. They went to the SEC tournament and just got bludgeoned in the first game by Texas A&M and ended up declining an NIT invitation. So it feels like that 11-7, 12-6, that difference could be massive for this LSU team. Am I oversimplifying it?
Completely.
Okay.
I never believed that Ben Simmons team was getting in, by the way.
Okay.
The 11-7, 12-6, those numbers mean absolutely nothing to the committee. They're not on the team sheet. They don't have anything about your conference on the team sheet. They don't have your standings. They don't have your record. They don't even have the name of your conference on the team sheet. You're judged on your entire season. So the difference between 11-7 and 12-6 is a win at Georgia?
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, well, that's not huge. Sorry.
It's against Georgia, yeah.
Yeah, that's not exactly huge because they're not going to care about your position in your conference or your record in your conference.
One more big picture with the SEC as a whole. You've got a couple of bubble teams there with Arkansas in your last 4 in and Mississippi State in your first 4 out. Obviously projecting it the way you do right now, but when you look ahead over the next month, how many bids does this league get?
3 to 5, depending on how some of these teams finish. And not just SEC teams. Because when you're a bubble team, you don't control your own destiny.
Yeah.
I mean, short of winning your conference tournament, there isn't really, a whole lot you can do. If you can pick up quality wins like North Carolina State did last night, that helps a lot. But, the SEC teams don't really have that opportunity, or at least not nearly as many opportunities as you do in, say, the Big Ten. So it's, I would say 3 to 5. Kentucky and Auburn for sure, LSU most likely, and then, probably 2 of Arkansas, 0 to 2 of Arkansas, Mississippi State, South Carolina. Florida. Florida, I would say that Florida, I like Florida's chances of getting in better than I do those others. But they're squarely on the bubble as well.
What's happened to the SEC? Last thing, what's happened to the SEC this year after a pretty good run the past couple of years getting teams in?
Just down, not enough good players. It's usually what it is. They didn't play well outside the league, and that's where you find out how good the conference is in November and December by their non-conference performance. So they lost a lot of talented players last year, and apparently wasn't able to replace them all with players of equal quality, or they're young, one or the other. And the issues are going to vary from team to team. It won't be the same on every team. But it's just back to, kind of what they were a few years ago. Maybe not quite as bad as they were a few years ago, but a step down from last year. Just, really one of those things that's, and then next year could be back to being good again.
Yeah. It's that time of year. Make sure you're following Jerry on Twitter at JPPalmCBS, and go check out his bracketology there at cbssports.com. Jerry, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
All right, take care.
As always. It is After Further Review. Glad that you're hanging out with us here. So, look, the worst-case scenario I guess the worst case would be LSU going 0-5 in this final stretch. But even what I just described was if LSU wins the 2 home games against A&M and Georgia and loses the 3 road games, and they finish 11-7 overall, Jerry said, they're squarely on the bubble, but probably on the inside of the bubble. So that's, of all the things we talked about there, that for me would probably be the most encouraging takeaway, is that it's really hard for me to imagine LSU losing at home to Georgia and Texas A&M. Now, based on what happened last night in the SEC, which we're going to talk about in around the SEC in the next segment, all of that just got thrown up in the air. But if LSU holds serve at home and manages to get one of those road wins against South Carolina, Florida, or Arkansas, it feels like you finish this stretch 3-2, you're going to be in the tournament. Now, what your seeding is, that's obviously more tenuous, but in is in. And it feels like if you go to 3-2, you're certainly a lock to be in. 2-3, you're on the bubble, but as Jerry said, he thinks they'd still be very much on the inside of the bubble based on what happened in the rest of college basketball, because you could have bid stealers. And if you have bid stealers, well, teams like LSU, if they continue this slump, it could end up costing them a spot.